Imagine, just for a second, waking up in a city that doesn't just remember its past, but actively breathes it.
Oh, man.
Right. A city where the air smells faintly of, like lavender and old paper, and where the morning sky always blooms in this brilliant, bruising violet before the sun even dares to rise.
And where the clocks.
Yes, the clocks, they tick sideways.
Right, they tick sideways.
But, here is the real hook for you guys listening. Imagine living in that city and knowing, just deep in your bones, that you might miss the absolute love of your life by a fraction of a second.
Or worse, by an entire parallel timeline.
Exactly. That is the agonizing, completely beautiful premise of Morning at Fernando's Road by Berns.
Such an incredible book.
It really is. It completely rewrites how we think about memory and destiny and just the architecture of longing. So our mission today on this deep dive is to do a deeply intellectual exploration of those core themes.
And we're going to walk you right up to the edge of the most crucial moments.
But as a solemn pledge to you, the listener, we are keeping you in total suspense. There will be absolutely zero spoilers regarding the ending or the major plot twists.
Yeah, none at all.
Because honestly, you just need to experience the resolution for yourself.
You really do. I mean, it is an incredibly layered world to step into. Berns is operating at the absolute height of their powers here.
Oh, totally.
You aren't just observing a narrative, you're being asked to decode a space where reality is just entirely porous. And the genius of the book is that it doesn't just throw magical realism at the wall for aesthetic purposes.
Right. It's not just pretty for the sake of being pretty.
Exactly. Every impossible detail serves a very precise psychological function.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to get right into the mechanics of that world. The city itself, the city of Leone, is practically the main antagonist.
Yeah.
But it's also functioning as this bizarre matchmaker. The author describes the city waking up in gradients of memory.
Such a great phrase.
Right, and I want to pause on those clocks for a second. Because the idea that time ticks sideways isn't just a quirky detail.
No, not at all.
It implies that time in Leone isn't moving linearly forward toward a destination, right? It's shifting laterally across parallel possibilities. Every tick is just a subtle shift into a reality where you made a slightly different choice.
And that lateral movement is crucial to understanding the isolation the characters feel. I mean, Berns is using the physical environment to illustrate this concept of urban fragmentation.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We all know that modern sensation of being surrounded by millions of people in metropolis, yet feeling completely untethered.
Right. Completely alone in a crowd.
Exactly. Leone physicalizes that. The buildings themselves are described as leaning slightly, as if they are listening to the footsteps of people walking in parallel lives.
It's so haunting.
It is. The setting blurs the line between memory and reality to the point where, well, the reader really has to question the foundational nature of connection. Like, are these characters discovering love, or are they merely remembering it from a timeline they never actually inhabited?
Which brings us perfectly to how our protagonists operate within this shifting architecture. We have Victor, who is a cartographer.
Yes.
And it is such a brilliant subversion of the trope, Usually, a map maker is the one who brings order to chaos.
Right, you document what's there.
Exactly. But Victor is obsessed with Fernando's road. He's constantly standing at the edge of it with his sketchbook, drawing this specific sweeping curve in the street that literally does not exist on any official city map.
His pencil just keeps finding a line that contradicts physical geography.
It's wild.
He is a man desperate to document objective reality, but his instincts keep pulling him toward the unseen. And that maps perfectly onto Romani, our other protagonist.
Yeah, she approaches it from the exact opposite direction.
Right. Her profession is what the book calls a dreamweaver. She is hired by these sleepless, haunted clients to craft gentle illusions and landscapes out of their subconscious longing.
Now, I have to say, I struggled with the concept of the dreamweaver at first.
Really? Why?
Well, I mean, in a lesser book, she'd just be like,
Yes.
this magical fairy sprinkling sleep dust.
Sure.
But Berns gets incredibly technical with it. It's less like she's a late-night DJ mixing random beats of imagination.
Right.
And much more like she is a psychological surgeon grafting skin.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, she takes a fragment of a client's happy childhood memory, isolates the sensory data like the smell of rain or the texture of a specific blanket, and seamlessly stitches it onto an adult trauma so the client's nervous system can finally relax enough to sleep.
It's highly clinical.
Exactly. But in the process of doing this subconscious work, She keeps seeing a man with a sketchbook in the peripheral vision of her client's dreams.
So she maps the subconscious world, but is being inextricably pulled toward a physical reality, like a specific man standing on a specific street corner.
Right.
The juxtaposition of their professions really sets the stage for their collision. Victor is trying to bring an imagined curve into the physical world, while Romani is trying to track a physical man through an imagined landscape.
And because they are hunting each other through completely different mediums, their first actual physical connection is almost imperceptible. But man, it completely shattered me.
Oh, the 7:14 a.m. scene.
Yes, it happens at exactly 7:14 a.m. on Fernando's road. Romani is walking with this incredibly slow, deliberate rhythm, and Victor is there, sketching. He has actively avoided speaking to her.
Right, because he doesn't want her to become just another story or, a shadow he can't quite capture.
Exactly. But she turns her head. Their eyes meet for just a fraction of a second. The shock of it causes Victor to drop his pencil.
And it rolls.
It rolls across the pavement and stops dead at the crack in the stone that feels like a literal seam between two worlds.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, this raised a huge question for me. I just couldn't figure out, is the city of Leone actively trying to keep them apart, like maliciously keeping them out of phase with each other? Or is it acting like some overprotective parent trying to teach them how to truly see each other before it allows them to meet?
That is a phenomenal ambiguity.
What's your read on the city's intent?
I don't read the city as malicious, actually. No, rather as an environment governed by strict neutral physics of emotional resonance. Like in Leone, you cannot occupy the same space as someone unless your internal frequencies are perfectly aligned.
Oh, wow.
So the crack in the stone where the pencil stops, that isn't a barrier the city threw up to be cruel. It's a visible manifestation of the emotional distance still existing between them. I mean, they recognized each other, yes, but recognition isn't the same as readiness.
That actually completely reframes how I looked at the subsequent chapters, because the mechanics of their romance become deeply frustrating.
No, highly frustrating.
But deliberately so. The author moves from establishing this porous setting to utilizing it as a weapon against their progression.
Which raises an important question about how tension functions in literature. We are so conditioned to the standard will they, won't they trope, right? The one that relies on human error.
Right, like a misplaced text message or a lie.
Or a simple misunderstanding. But here, the obstacle is the literal fabric of space-time itself.
Right, and let's look at the lamppost scene, because this is where my frustration just peaked.
Oh, the note.
Yes. Romani finally takes agency. She tears a page from her journal and writes, "You looked at me like you knew. If you're real, meet me here tomorrow."
Such a great line.
And she tucks the note into the crack of a flickering lamppost on Fernando's road. The next morning, she waits. He doesn't show.
But why doesn't he show?
Because he woke up late, tangled in residual dreams of her. And he rushes to the street, like 10 minutes after she gives up and leaves. He runs up to the lamppost, reaches for the crack, and at that exact millisecond, a gust of Leone's wind sweeps the paper up into the sky.
It's agonizing.
He watches it vanish into the morning light without ever seeing what it said. Now, pushback here for you.
Okay.
Isn't that just a manipulative, cruel plot device by the author?
Yeah.
Just an artificial way to keep them apart.
Well, it feels cruel if you view it through the lens of standard romance, right? But what's fascinating here is that Berns is exploring something much deeper.
Which is?
The psychological concept of ambiguous loss. It's a type of grief where there is no closure. We usually think about the joy of an encounter or the definitive tragedy of a breakup, but the almost is its own distinct agonizing trauma.
Wow, okay.
The author is asking us to consider how the shape of someone's absence can be heavier than their presence. The tension isn't just about whether they will eventually meet. It's an exploration of the emotional toll of knowing someone is existing right next to you, just slightly out of phase with your reality.
It's a masterclass in building tension.
Exactly. The wind blowing the note away isn't a cheap trick. It's the physical universe confirming that they are still fundamentally misaligned in time.
Right. It isn't just bad luck. It's an architectural feature of their universe.
Yeah.
And that out-of-phase concept totally peaks at the Mirror Cafe.
Oh, yes.
I mean, this scene is staggering. It's a tiny cafe wedged between two leaning buildings. Inside, the walls are covered in mismatched clocks.
None of them ticking.
None of them ticking. And there's a warped, ancient mirror spanning the back wall. Victor goes in, orders a tea, and sits by the window. We then cut to Romani going into the exact same cafe, sitting at the exact same table.
But she is not there with him.
No,
Yeah.
because their timelines are ticking sideways at different rates.
Right, they are occupying the identical geographic coordinates, but they are completely isolated in parallel versions of the same afternoon.
And the anchor between these two timelines is the barista. We really have to dissect this character.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he isn't just serving coffee. When Romani walks in and says she's never been there before, the barista casually replies, "Funny, you said that yesterday too."
He is somehow perceiving both of their timelines simultaneously. The barista functions as a localized deity of memory. In a city where time is fluid, there have to be fixed points, people who anchor the shifting realities. The barista remembers them both because he operates outside of their emotional turbulence.
He observes the overlapping patterns that they're too close to see.
Yes.
Which triggers the climax of that scene. Romani, sitting in her timeline, writes in her journal, "I feel close to something." And across the dimensional divide, the warped mirror suddenly shimmers.
Victor looks up from his tea
And sees her silhouette forming in the glass. He stands up, walks over, and presses his hand against the mirror. Romani does the exact same thing from her side. Their fingers align perfectly.
But they are only touching through the cold glass of the reflection.
And in that precise moment, all the mismatched dead clocks on the wall tick exactly once and then stop entirely.
It's such a brilliant sensory detail. The universe is acknowledging their proximity, but it's the barista who delivers the thesis of the entire novel right then. He watches them pressing their hands against the glass and says, "Some people meet in mirrors before they meet in time."
Some people meet in mirrors before they meet in time. I literally had to put the book down.
I know.
It's like a profound escalation of the intellectual stakes. It elevates the narrative from we keep missing each other on the morning commute to our souls are tethered across dimensions waiting for physics to catch up.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the mirror is a reflection of the self.
Right.
Before you can truly meet the other person in tangible time, you have to recognize the reflection of your own longing in them. You have to understand what it is you're actually looking for.
And once that recognition happens, the universe finally buckles. Here's where it gets really interesting.
The Hourglass Station.
The Hourglass Station. Because Fernando's road has been shifting and simmering this whole time, and at exactly 7:14 a.m. a few days later, the air simply splits.
It's not a door.
No, it is a literal tear in the fabric of the street. They both step through it, and they find themselves on a platform suspended in a deep indigo sky. There are constellations pulsing like heartbeats.
And in the very center of this platform,
A massive glass hourglass, taller than a person. But the sand inside is completely frozen mid-fall.
they have stepped into a sanctuary carved entirely out of time. They have bypassed the sideways ticking of Leone and found a pocket universe where seconds do not exist. And you have to see how the author handles this first actual encounter.
It's so unexpected.
Right. When they finally stand face to face, devoid of shimmers or parallel barriers, they don't launch into some grand melodramatic monologue.
No, they just share silence. It's a silence that is dense and completely full. Their first meeting lasts exactly 7 minutes of our time, though time isn't moving there. Romani just looks at him, "You're real."
And Victor laughs and says, "So are you."
They don't waste a single breath interrogating the quantum mechanics of the tear in the sky. They talk about the dropped pencil, the missed note, the barista.
They just bask in the empirical evidence of each other.
Yeah. And when the station inevitably begins to fade and the street reappears, they promise to find each other again.
It is the ultimate catharsis for the reader. But, Berns is an author who understands that every miracle in a magical realist setting demands a toll.
Absolutely.
The rules of this universe are uncompromising.
Devastatingly absolute. Victor discovers the cost shortly after, through the character of the old man.
Oh, the old man.
There's an old man who sits on the edge of Fernando's road, constantly sketching spirals in the dust with a stick. He's the one who explains the rule of the station to Victor. The Hourglass Station only ever opens 3 times for any given pair.
Exactly 3 meetings.
After the 3rd crossing, the tier seals forever, leaving nothing but silence.
We really have to look closely at that old man. He isn't just an exposition dump. He is sketching spirals because he is trapped in the psychological loop of a memory he can no longer access. He is the walking cautionary tale of someone who used up his 3 meetings and survived, but is permanently hollowed out by the aftermath.
Now, I have to challenge the premise here. When I read about the rule of 3, part of me thought, isn't this just an artificial ticking clock?
How do you mean?
Like the author handing them a winning lottery ticket but enforcing highly restricted, arbitrary increments just to manufacture drama at the end of the book.
I see where you're going with that, but it's actually the opposite of artificial drama. It's a distillation device.
Okay, unpack that.
Imposing a strict, unyielding limit fundamentally alters the chemistry of human interaction. By capping their existence to 3 meetings, Berns strips Victor and Romani of the luxury of superficiality.
Oh, I see.
They cannot play hard to get. They cannot take the next Tuesday for granted. They are forced to deal exclusively in pure, concentrated truth.
So what does this all mean for how they actually communicate? Because it totally shifts the tone of their second meeting.
Completely.
The second time the station opens, they don't have the euphoria of discovery anymore. It's replaced by this profound, aching vulnerability. They talk about their deepest fears, their childhoods, the sheer terror of waking up one day and not feeling the pull of the other person anymore.
And then Romani asks Victor.
She asks him how many times the station opens. When he tells her it's only 3, she freezes, looks at the frozen sand, and says, then this is the middle.
Then this is the middle. I mean, it is a line that carries so much psychological weight.
It's crushing.
The realization that you are simultaneously at the peak of your joy and already past the halfway point of the most important connection of your life. The second meeting is defined entirely by the looming shadow of the third.
And it fundamentally changes Victor.
Yeah.
He's a cartographer who spent his life trying to map physical presence. But after that second meeting, he stops trying to draw the station or Fernando's road.
He starts sketching what he calls echo drawings.
Yes, the echo drawings. The outline of a doorway, a teacup left half full, the specific curve of a shadow cast by nothing. He abandons mapping presence and entirely dedicates his art to mapping her absence.
Which is the philosophical core of Mourning at Fernando's Road.
Mm-hmm.
The author is challenging us to confront the nature of finite perfection versus flawed permanence.
Right.
Is a connection so pure and distilled that it can only exist outside of time for 3 brief moments, ultimately more valuable than a lifetime of mundane, everyday reality?
And how do you carry a perfect memory without letting the resulting loss completely consume your future? Does a perfect memory sustain you, or does it become a spiral you draw in the dust for the rest of your life?
It's heavy.
It really makes you wonder about the real world, honestly. If a magical city like Leone can remember the people in it, do the physical spaces we inhabit today hold the architectural memories of who we almost became?
Wow, yeah.
The next time you walk into a room and feel a sudden, inexplicable sense of déjà vu, it really makes you ask yourself if you just brushed up against a parallel proximity. A timeline where you made the other choice.
It is a phenomenal text that demands introspection. The way it physicalizes our internal landscapes is just unparalleled in contemporary fiction.
And as promised, we're stopping right here. We're leaving you at the precipice.
No spoilers.
Because the station does open one final time for Victor and Romani. The tear in Fernando's Road doesn't open with a shimmer or with silence, but with a blinding, solved golden glow.
And for the first and only time, the sand in the giant hourglass finally begins to fall in earnest.
What happens in that golden light, the exact words they choose to say to each other when they know the sand is running out, and what becomes of the gradients of memory in the city of Leone afterward? Well, you have to experience that for yourself.
You really do.
Mourning at Fernando's Road is available now everywhere books are sold. You absolutely need to go grab a copy immediately. Do not sleep on this. It is a stunning intellectual and emotional journey that you simply cannot miss.
And as a quick bonus tease, if you find yourself deeply captivated by how Berns explores the weight of our choices and the mechanics of memory, you should also hunt down the author's previous book.
Oh, The Man Who Failed to Move.
Yes, The Man Who Failed to Move.
It's a highly poetic journey told in 20 distinct chapters about a man haunted by a single moment where he froze during a crisis. It tracks his decades-long journey toward finding motion and redemption.
And it features that exact same introspective, beautiful dissection of the human psyche. Berns has a truly unique gift for articulating the quiet, unheroic choices that define the trajectory of our lives.
So true. So as you go about your day today, pay attention to the architecture around you. Look at the way the light hits the pavement or the reflection shifting in a cafe window. Because if you were handed a tear in the fabric of time and given only 3 moments to exist in perfect truth with someone, what would you say before the sand runs out?